are not hidden from those who know where to look. They are merely veiled behind symbols that only the prepared mind can decipher. Gershom Scholem, preeminent scholar of Jewish mysticism. Imagine standing before an ancient text so powerful that angels themselves tried to prevent its revelation to humanity. A manuscript said to contain the very secrets of creation, whispered directly from the divine into mortal ears. This is not fiction. This is the legendary Book of Raziel, perhaps the most enigmatic text in all of Kabbalistic tradition. The story begins not on earth, but in the celestial realms. According to mystical Jewish tradition, when Adam was expelled from Eden, he was consumed by despair. Seeing his anguish, the angel Raziel, whose name translates to secret of God, took pity on the first human. In an act of divine compassion or cosmic rebellion, depending on which account you believe, Raziel descended from the heavens bearing a book. This was no ordinary text, but a compendium of celestial knowledge, the very secrets of creation itself. The manuscript allegedly contained formulas for commanding nature, understanding the language of birds and beasts, healing any ailment, seeing beyond the veil of time, and even summoning angels. Most significantly, it was said to contain the 72 names of God and the precise mechanisms through which divine energy flows into our material world. But other angels, alarmed at such powerful knowledge being given to humans, immediately intervened. In some versions of the tale, the archangel Hadraniel cast the book into the ocean. In others, it was the jealous angel Rahab. The cosmic struggle over this knowledge suggests something profound. The Book of Raziel represents a boundary between what humans are permitted to know and what remains exclusively divine. Adam, devastated once more, wept at the shore until his tears moved the angel Rahab to retrieve the book from the depths. Thus began the book's journey through human history, passing from Adam to Enoch, then to Noah, who used its wisdom to build the ark, then to Solomon, and eventually through generations of mystics and sages who guarded its secrets. But here lies our first mystery. What exactly is this book that has captivated mystics for centuries? Is it a single physical manuscript, a collection of oral teachings, or perhaps something far more elusive, a metaphorical representation of humanity's quest to understand the divine? The earliest physical text we can identify as Sefer Raziel HaMalach, Book of Raziel the Angel, emerged in medieval Spain around the 13th century. However, fragments of its teachings appear in much older sources, suggesting its content evolved over centuries, accumulating layers of wisdom like sediment in an ancient riverbed. The manuscript combines several distinct mystical traditions: practical Kabbalah focused on divine names and angelic invocations, theoretical Kabbalah exploring the nature of God and creation, astrological teachings, and gematria, the mystical interpretation of Hebrew letters and their numerical values. What makes this text particularly fascinating is its claim to be pre-human knowledge, wisdom that existed before our world took shape. This positions the Book of Raziel not merely as a human interpretation of divinity, but as a direct transmission of divine perspective itself. But could such a text truly exist? And if it did, what would happen to those who read it? The answers may lie not just in what the book contains, but in what happens to those who seek its wisdom. What cosmic secrets await in the pages of this celestial manuscript? And why have so many risked everything to possess it? The physical journey of the Book of Raziel through human history reads like a mystical adventure spanning continents and centuries. Though its origins are shrouded in legend, we can trace its documented emergence to medieval Spain during the flourishing of Kabbalistic thought. The earliest version we can confidently identify appeared in the 13th century, compiled by an unknown author who claimed to be transmitting ancient wisdom. This medieval manuscript combined several distinct traditions: cosmological secrets, angelic hierarchies, divine names of power, and practical magical formulas. It represented not just theological speculation, but a practical manual for engaging with divine forces. What makes this text particularly fascinating is how it traveled through the most tumultuous periods of Jewish history. During the Spanish Inquisition, when Jewish texts were being burned by the thousands, copies of the Book of Raziel were hidden in secret chambers, buried in gardens, and smuggled across borders by those who believed its wisdom must be preserved at all costs. One particularly compelling account tells of Rabbi Isaac of Toledo, who, when forced to flee Spain in 1492, chose to memorize entire sections of the book rather than risk carrying the physical text. He later reconstructed these passages from memory after reaching the safety of Morocco, where he taught them to a new generation of students. The manuscript's journey continued eastward to the mystical communities of Safed in the 16th century, where it influenced the revolutionary Kabbalistic system of Isaac Luria. Luria's teachings on the contraction of divine light, Tzimtzum, the shattering of the vessels, Shevirat HaKelim, and the gathering of divine sparks, Tikkun, all show remarkable parallels to concepts found in the Book of Raziel. By the 17th century, versions of the text had reached Eastern Europe, where they became foundational to Hasidic mysticism. The Baal Shem Tov, founder of Hasidism, was said to have carried a copy with him at all times, consulting it before performing healings and other spiritual interventions. Perhaps most intriguing is what happened when the book crossed cultural boundaries. In the 18th century, translations began appearing in non-Jewish esoteric circles. Christian Kabbalists, Rosicrucians, and early Masonic lodges all sought copies, believing the text contained universal spiritual truths transcending religious divisions. The manuscript's reputation grew to such mythic proportions that by the 19th century, rumors spread of a complete version hidden in a monastery in the mountains of Armenia. Explorers and occultists mounted expeditions to find it, though none succeeded, or at least none who returned were willing to share what they discovered. The content of the Book of Raziel is organized around the fundamental Kabbalistic concept of the Sephirot, the 10 emanations or attributes through which the infinite unknowable God, Ein Sof, manifests in creation. These emanations form a cosmic map, often depicted as the Tree of Life, representing the pathway between divine perfection and our material world. What distinguishes the Book of Raziel from other Kabbalistic texts is its detailed description of the angelic forces governing each sephira, complete with their names, sigils, hours of power, and the precise invocations needed to communicate with them. This practical dimension made the book particularly valuable and dangerous in the eyes of both practitioners and authorities. The text also contains what it calls the alphabet of angels, a system of communication allegedly used by celestial beings, with symbols that supposedly resonate with specific frequencies of divine energy. Those who mastered this alphabet were said to gain the ability to perceive realities normally invisible to human consciousness. But perhaps the most compelling aspect of the Book of Raziel is its claim to reveal the 72-letter name of God, a name so powerful that, according to tradition, merely pronouncing it correctly could alter the fabric of reality itself. What happens to those who truly comprehend these divine names? And why have so many mystical traditions warned of the dangers of pursuing this knowledge unprepared? Beneath the angelic hierarchies and divine names lies the true heart of the Book of Raziel, a comprehensive cosmological system that maps not just our physical universe, but multiple dimensions of reality simultaneously. This cosmology presents our world as merely the outermost layer. According to the text, Creation consists of 4 fundamental worlds or dimensions, each representing a different level of divine manifestation. The highest, Atziluth, the world of emanation, is pure divinity, a realm of perfect unity where even the concept of separation does not exist. Below this lies Beriah, the world of creation, where the first distinct spiritual entities take form. Next comes Yetzirah, the world of formation, populated by angels and more defined spiritual forces. Finally, there is Asaya, the world of action, our physical universe, the most distant from divine unity. What makes this cosmology revolutionary is its insistence that these worlds are not separate locations, but interpenetrating dimensions that coexist in the same space. The Book of Raziel describes techniques for shifting one's consciousness between these dimensions, allowing the prepared adept to perceive multiple levels of reality simultaneously. This multidimensional perspective explains one of the text's most cryptic statements. The human body is a perfect map of all creation. According to Raziel's teachings, each human being contains all 4 worlds within themselves, from the divine spark at their core, Atziluth, to their physical form, Asya. This makes humans unique in creation, microcosms containing all levels of reality in miniature. The manuscript contains detailed diagrams mapping these correspondences between human anatomy and cosmic structure. The spine corresponds to the central pillar of the Sephirot. The brain houses Keter, crown, the highest Sephira. The heart contains Tiferet, beauty, the central balancing force. Even more specifically, different fingers connect to different angelic forces, and certain organs resonate with particular divine names. This explains why the Book of Raziel places such emphasis on bodily postures and hand gestures during prayer and meditation. These aren't merely symbolic acts, but practical techniques for aligning one's personal microcosm with the cosmic macrocosm, creating channels for divine energy to flow between dimensions. Perhaps most fascinating is the book's treatment of time. According to Raziel, time as we experience it is merely a limited perception of a much more complex reality. The text describes 7 cosmic cycles, each governed by different divine attributes and angelic forces. Our current reality exists within the 7th cycle, dominated by the Sephira of Malkut, kingdom, the most material and seemingly separate from divinity. The manuscript prophesies a coming transition to a new cycle governed by Yesod, foundation, which will bring about a fundamental shift in human consciousness, specifically an increased awareness of the interconnectedness of all things and the illusory nature of separation. This transition is described not as a single apocalyptic event, but as a gradual awakening occurring over generations. Most controversial among scholars is the section describing what the text calls the Chamber of Creation, a sacred space allegedly located at the energetic center of our planet, where the original templates for all earthly forms are maintained. According to Raziel, those who can access this chamber in meditation can influence these templates, thereby affecting physical reality. This concept bears striking resemblance to ideas found in other mystical traditions worldwide, from the Aboriginal Australian dream time to Plato's realm of forms, suggesting either universal mystical insights or some forgotten common source of ancient wisdom. The Book of Raziel insists that this cosmology is not merely theoretical, but practical. It provides specific meditative techniques for exploring these other dimensions, complete with warnings about the dangers of venturing unprepared into higher realms. For the unprepared mind, it cautions, glimpsing Beriah directly is like staring at the sun, blinding rather than illuminating. Seat. But if these other dimensions truly exist, why can't we perceive them in our normal state of consciousness? And what might happen if large numbers of people began developing the ability to shift between these realities at will? At the core of the Book of Raziel lies its most closely guarded secret: the comprehensive system of divine names and how to properly use them. Far more than mere labels, these names are described as actual conduits of divine power, sonic keys that, when properly intoned, create resonance between human consciousness and specific aspects of divinity. The most sacred of these is the Tetragrammaton, the four-letter name of God, Yod-He-Vav-He, that appears throughout Jewish scripture, but was traditionally never pronounced aloud. The Book of Raziel provides something found nowhere else: detailed instructions for its proper vocalization, including breath control, tongue position, and the specific mental imagery to hold while speaking each syllable. According to the text, this name contains within it the formula of creation itself, the precise vibrational pattern that transformed divine will into physical reality. When properly intoned, it allegedly creates a temporary alignment between the speaker's consciousness and the creative force of the universe. This explains why the proper pronunciation was traditionally reserved for the high priest, and only on Yom Kippur in the Holy of Holies. The cosmic alignment was considered too powerful for casual use. Beyond the Tetragrammaton, the Book of Raziel describes 72 three-letter divine names derived from 3 verses in Exodus. These names, collectively called the Shem Ha-Mepharash, each govern different aspects of reality and connect to specific angelic forces. The manuscript provides detailed correspondences: which name governs which natural phenomena, which celestial body, which hour of the day, which day of the year. What makes this system particularly remarkable is its mathematical precision. The 72 names divide into 4 groups of 18, corresponding to the 4 letters of the Tetragrammaton. Each group governs 1 cardinal direction and 1 season. This creates a complete system for working with divine energy regardless of time or place. The text also contains what it calls the practical application of divine names.
When your severe asthma says you can't, Tespire says you can. Tespire is an add-on treatment for people 12 and over that helps you prevent attacks and relieve asthma symptoms. Tespire is not a rescue medication. Serious allergic reactions may occur. Get help for swelling of your face, mouth, tongue, trouble breathing. Rash or eye allergy can happen. Don't stop asthma treatments without talking to your doctor. Tell your doctor if you have a parasitic infection or your asthma worsens. Avoid live vaccines. Sore throat, joint, back pain may occur.
Specific combinations and sequences for various purposes: healing illness, gaining wisdom, protection from harm, and even influencing weather. This creates a complete system for working with divine energy regardless of time or place. The text also contains what it calls the practical application of divine names, specific combinations and sequences for various purposes: healing illness, gaining wisdom, protection from harm, and even influencing weather patterns. However, these come with strict ethical guidelines and warnings about karmic consequences for misuse. One of the most intriguing sections describes the Ana B'Koach, a prayer constructed from the first 42 letters of creation. According to the Book of Raziel, this prayer, when recited with proper intention, while visualizing specific sacred geometries, temporarily opens a direct channel to the creative force that existed before the physical universe took form. Modern researchers have noted something remarkable about these divine names. When written in the original Hebrew and arranged in certain patterns, particularly the Kabbalistic tree of life configuration, they create visual forms that bear striking resemblance to patterns found throughout nature, from the structure of DNA to the arrangement of galaxies. This has led some scholars to suggest that these names might encode fundamental mathematical principles underlying physical reality. The manuscript also addresses a profound metaphysical question: how can limited human language possibly connect to the unlimited divine? It explains that Hebrew letters are not merely conventional symbols, but cosmic building blocks, the actual vessels that channel and contain divine light as it steps down into increasingly material forms. Each letter represents both a sound and a specific energy pattern, making the language itself a technology for consciousness transformation. This explains the book of Raziel's emphasis on the physical form of letters in sacred texts. It provides detailed instructions for scribes, specifying not just the shape of each letter, but the precise order of strokes, the proper intention while writing, and even the composition of the ink. A properly constructed sacred text is described as a physical device that actually emanates specific energetic frequencies. Perhaps most controversial is the book's assertion that divine names from other traditions also carry power, though in more limited ways. It acknowledges that all authentic spiritual paths contain fragments of truth, while maintaining that the Hebrew divine names provide the most direct and complete access to divine energy. The difference, it suggests, between viewing light through various colored filters versus experiencing it directly. But this raises profound questions. If these divine names truly function as described, why aren't their effects more widely documented? Is the power in the sounds themselves, or in the consciousness of those who use them? And what might happen if modern technology were applied to amplify and distribute these sacred vibrations? What unseen forces might we be invoking when we speak these ancient words of power? The Book of Raziel devotes extensive sections to what it presents as the most complete system of angelology ever revealed to humanity. Far from the simplistic winged beings of popular imagination, it describes angels as complex, multidimensional intelligences that serve as the active forces administering cosmic law. According to the manuscript, angels are not individual entities, but vast fields of consciousness organized into precise hierarchies. Each hierarchy governs specific aspects of creation, from the movement of celestial bodies to the growth patterns of plants, from weather systems to human emotions. Most fascinating is the text's insistence that angels are not separate from natural law, but are natural law, the intelligent patterns that maintain order throughout creation. The book identifies 7 primary angelic orders, each connected to one of the 7 traditional planets. Under these are 49 suborders, each governing more specific domains. The system creates a comprehensive organizational chart of cosmic administration, explaining which angelic forces to petition for which purposes. What distinguishes the Book of Raziel from other angelologies is its detailed communication protocols. It doesn't merely list angelic names, but provides complete instructions for establishing contact. Specific times when each angel is most accessible. The colors, scents, and sounds that resonate with their particular frequency, and the precise mental state the practitioner must achieve before communication becomes possible. Most intriguing is the book's description of what it calls the angelic interface, a visualization technique where the practitioner constructs a specific geometric form in their mind's eye, which then serves as a meeting ground between human and angelic consciousness. These geometric forms, combinations of circles, triangles, and Hebrew letters arranged in precise patterns, allegedly create stable energetic structures that can withstand the intensity of angelic presence without overwhelming with ego, fear, or selfish intent, creates distortions that can manifest as physical or psychological illness. The unprepared mind, it cautions, perceiving angelic light through the filter of its own limitations, creates demons from angels, suggesting that many negative spiritual experiences result not from actual negative entities, but from distorted perception of positive ones. Among the most powerful angels described is Metatron, identified as the highest of all angels, and sometimes called the Lesser YHVH, the divine name. According to some traditions, Metatron was once the human Enoch, who was transformed into an angelic being without experiencing death. This makes him uniquely positioned as an intermediary between human and divine realms. The Book of Raziel provides specific protocols for communicating with Metatron, describing him as the guardian of all mystical knowledge and the angelic force most concerned with human spiritual evolution. It claims that sincere seekers who follow the prescribed methods can receive direct guidance from Metatron regarding their spiritual path and purpose. Beyond individual angels, the manuscript describes cosmic guardians that maintain the boundaries between dimensions. These entities, neither fully angelic nor divine, serve as gatekeepers testing the worthiness of those who seek to access higher realms. The text provides detailed accounts of these guardians, the trials they present, and the correct responses that allow passage. Perhaps most controversial is the book's assertion that humans can, through proper preparation and technique, temporarily access the consciousness of specific angels, a practice it calls putting on the garment of an angelic force. This is not described as possession, but as a consensual merging of awareness that allows the human to perceive reality from the angel's perspective while retaining their individual identity. The manuscript contains accounts from mystics who allegedly achieved such states, describing perceptions beyond normal human capacity. Seeing the energetic patterns connecting all living things, perceiving multiple timelines simultaneously, and understanding languages never learned. These experiences typically lasted only minutes by earthly time, but imparted insights that transformed the mystic's understanding permanently. Modern researchers have noted striking parallels between these accounts and contemporary reports of mystical experiences induced through various means, from meditation to psychedelics to near-death experiences. This raises intriguing questions about the nature of consciousness itself and its potential to access information beyond normal sensory channels. But if these angelic intelligences truly exist and interact with human consciousness, what might their ultimate purpose be in relation to humanity? Are they, as the Book of Raziel suggests, actively participating in human spiritual evolution? And what might happen as more people develop the capacity to perceive and communicate with these forces directly? What cosmic conversation might we be missing by limiting ourselves to purely material awareness? The Book of Raziel, despite its ancient origins, contains passages that seem uncannily relevant to our modern condition. In what it calls the vision of the seventh cycle, it describes a time when humanity will create tools that appear magical but lack wisdom, when knowledge will increase but understanding will diminish, when the veils between worlds will thin, allowing forces long dormant to awaken. Many scholars interpret this as describing our current technological age, a time when we have developed incredible tools without necessarily developing the wisdom to use them responsibly. The manuscript warns that this period would be marked by great forgetting, a disconnection from traditional wisdom and spiritual awareness that creates vulnerability to lower vibrational influences. What makes this particularly relevant is the book's proposed solution. Rather than rejecting technological advancement, it suggests that humanity must develop inner technology at a rate matching external technology. It describes specific meditative practices designed to strengthen what it calls the subtle bodies, aspects of human consciousness that extend beyond the physical and serve as our interface with higher dimensions. The text contains detailed instructions for what modern practitioners might call psychic protection, techniques for maintaining energetic boundaries in increasingly chaotic environments. These include visualization methods, breath practices, and the strategic use of divine names as vibrational shields. Far from superstition, these techniques are presented as practical tools for managing one's internal state, regardless of external circumstances. Perhaps most striking is the book's discussion of what it terms the Great Remembering, a process it claims is already underway. in which ancient wisdom traditions are being rediscovered and integrated with modern understanding. It prophesies a time when the knowledge of East and West, North and South will flow together like rivers meeting, creating new understanding greater than any single tradition. This seems to anticipate the current global interest in mindfulness, meditation, and various spiritual technologies drawn from traditions worldwide. The Book of Raziel suggests this convergence is not random, but part of a cosmic cycle preparing humanity for a significant evolutionary leap in consciousness. However, the manuscript also contains stark warnings about this transitional period. It describes what it calls false lights, spiritual teachings that appear illuminating but actually lead away from authentic development. These are characterized by three features. They promise spiritual advancement without ethical refinement. They encourage spiritual experiences without integration into daily life. And they separate practitioners from their cultural and historical roots. The text is particularly emphatic about the dangers of pursuing mystical experiences as ends in themselves, warning that visions without wisdom lead to delusion. Power without compassion leads to corruption. It insists that authentic spiritual development always manifests as increased compassion, humility, extraordinary experiences or abilities. One of the most enigmatic sections describes what it calls the return of the Watchers, beings mentioned in the Book of Enoch who allegedly provided humanity with advanced knowledge in ancient times. According to Raziel, these beings would once again take interest in human affairs during our current era, offering knowledge that could either accelerate positive transformation or hasten destruction, depending on the spiritual readiness of those who receive it. Some researchers have connected this prophecy to modern phenomena ranging from the dramatic increase in reported UFO encounters to the sudden acceleration of technological development in the 20th century. While such interpretations remain speculative, they highlight the text's continuing ability to provide frameworks for understanding contemporary experiences. The Book of Raziel concludes with what it calls the final secret, the understanding that all the knowledge it contains is ultimately a means to recognize that divine consciousness is not separate from our own. The angelic hierarchies, divine names, and cosmic structures it describes are presented as scaffolding, necessary supports for human understanding that eventually give way to direct perception of the unity underlying all existence. The greatest mystery, it states in its final passage, is not hidden in secret texts or guarded by celestial beings, but within the human heart that has learned to be still and listen. This suggests that the true purpose of all mystical knowledge is not to accumulate information or power, but to return us to our essential nature, to remember what we have always been. As we stand at this critical juncture in human history, facing unprecedented challenges and possibilities, perhaps the ancient wisdom of the Book of Raziel offers exactly what we need. Not escape from our reality, but a deeper way of engaging with it. Not rejection of our humanity, but a more complete expression of it. What forgotten aspects of your own consciousness might be awakening in this time of great transition? And how might connecting with these ancient streams of wisdom transform your experience of being human in this extraordinary moment? I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Has any particular aspect of the Book of Raziel resonated with you? Which mystical tradition speaks most deeply to your own spiritual journey? Your perspective adds to our collective understanding of these profound